The air on Dagobah hung thick and humid, a suffocating blanket that pressed down on Luke Skywalker. He stood before the gnarled ancient tree, its roots twisting like petrified serpents into the swampy ground. Yoda's words echoed in his mind. That place is strong with the dark side of the Force. A domain of evil it is. In you must go. Luke's heart pounded, a drumbeat against the oppressive quiet. He felt it, a cold, insidious presence, a whisper of power that promised swift solutions to the galaxy's woes. He stepped inside, the light of Dagobah fading behind him, replaced by an unnatural gloom. The cave was a void, a place where shadows danced and fears took form. He heard a familiar rasping breath, saw the towering silhouette of Darth Vader. This time, the vision was not fleeting. Vader advanced, his crimson blade igniting a beacon of malevolence. Luke's own lightsaber hummed to life, a desperate defense. Unlike before, the duel was not a quick, symbolic strike. Vader was relentless, his blows heavy, each parry rattling Luke to the core. He felt the cold touch of the dark side seeping into his own resolve, whispering of the strength needed to truly defeat this monster. He saw his friends, Leia, Han, Chewie, in chains, suffering under the Empire's heel. The vision intensified, showing their faces contorted in pain, pleading for a savior strong enough to break their bonds. "You are weak, boy," Vader's synthesized voice boomed, echoing in the cavernous space. "Your compassion is a chain. Only through power can you protect those you love." Luke roared, a primal sound of frustration and burgeoning rage. He pushed back, not with Jedi discipline, but with raw, unbridled emotion. He felt a surge, a dark current flowing through him, amplifying his strength, sharpening his senses. He saw an opening, a flicker in Vader's guard, and struck. The black helmet rolled across the damp floor, revealing his own face. This time, the revelation wasn't a moment of horrified realization, but a chilling understanding. The face was his, yes, but twisted, eyes burning with a fierce, unyielding ambition. It was the face of someone who would do anything to achieve victory. The dark side wasn't just an enemy, it was a tool, a weapon waiting to be wielded. Outside the cave, Yoda felt a tremor in the Force, a discordant note that sent a shiver through his ancient bones. He called out, "Luke, what you feel is not the way." But his words were lost, swallowed by the growing darkness. Luke emerged, his eyes no longer innocent, but hardened, a subtle glint of something dangerous within them. He looked at Yoda, not with reverence, but with a newfound impatience. "Your path is too slow, Master," he stated, his voice deeper, more resonant. "The galaxy burns while we meditate. Power is what's needed. Real power." Yoda's ears drooped. "Clouded, your mind has become. The dark side, a quick and easy path it is, but leads only to suffering." "Suffering for the Empire, perhaps," Luke retorted, his hand instinctively resting on his lightsaber. He boarded his X-Wing, a grim determination etched on his face. The Force still flowed through him, but it was no longer the serene river of light. It was a raging torrent, carving its own destructive path. The confrontation in Cloud City was a maelstrom of raw power. Luke, no longer the hesitant Padawan, met Vader's every blow with a savage intensity that surprised even the Sith Lord. His lightsaber, still green, moved with a speed and ferocity that spoke of a dangerous new mastery. He didn't just defend, he attacked, pushing Vader back, forcing him to yield ground. "You are strong, boy," Vader rasped, parrying a particularly vicious overhead strike. "Your anger makes you powerful." "It makes me effective," Luke snarled, his eyes blazing. He saw his father in Vader, not just a shadow, but a reflection of the power he now craved. Then came the revelation. "No, I am your father." Instead of a scream of denial, a chilling calm settled over Luke. He looked at the mechanical hand, then at his own. A twisted smile touched his lips. "Good," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Then the power is mine by right. Join me, Father. Together, we can end this charade. We can rule the galaxy, not as servants, but as masters." Vader paused, a flicker of something akin to surprise in his red-rimmed eyes. This was not the boy he expected. This was a son who truly understood. "The Emperor will not tolerate rivals," Vader warned, testing him. "Then the Emperor will fall," Luke stated, his conviction absolute. "The galaxy needs order. We will bring it, by any means necessary." Vader extended his hand, not in a plea, but in an invitation. Luke took it, the metallic grip cold against his flesh, yet strangely comforting. The bond of blood, now twisted by the dark side, solidified. When Luke Skywalker was presented before Emperor Palpatine, he did not kneel. He stood tall, his presence radiating a nascent power that even the Emperor acknowledged. Palpatine's eyes gleamed with malevolent delight. "Ah, young Skywalker, you have chosen wisely. Your father has spoken highly of your potential." "My potential will be fully realized, Master," Luke replied, his voice devoid of emotion. "The rebellion will be crushed. The galaxy will know true order." Palpatine cackled, a dry, rattling sound. "Indeed. Your training begins now, my new apprentice. Together, we shall forge an empire that will last 1,000 years. News of Luke Skywalker's defection ripped through the Rebel Alliance like a poisoned blade. Leia felt it first. A sudden, agonizing void where her brother's light once shone, replaced by a cold, distant darkness. Han Solo, upon hearing the reports, smashed his fist into a bulkhead, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. "He wouldn't! Not Luke!" But the evidence was undeniable. Imperial transmissions, intercepted and decrypted, spoke of a new enforcer, a formidable Force user leading devastating strikes against Rebel strongholds. Luke, now clad in dark robes, his lightsaber a chilling crimson, became a terrifying legend. He used his intimate knowledge of Rebel tactics, his understanding of their hopes and weaknesses, to systematically dismantle their operations. He was a ghost in the shadows, striking with precision and ruthlessness, leaving only despair in his wake. The galaxy, once clinging to the fragile hope of a farm boy from Tatooine, now watched in horror as that hope transformed into a terrifying instrument of tyranny. The rebellion, fractured and demoralized, fought on, but the light had dimmed considerably. Luke Skywalker, once the galaxy's last hope, had become its greatest fear, a chilling testament to the seductive power of the dark side. The suffocating humidity of Dagobah clung to Luke Skywalker as he stepped into the gaping maw of the gnarled tree. The air inside was not just thick, it was heavy with an ancient, malevolent presence that seemed to press directly on his soul. The light of the swamp vanished, replaced by an impenetrable gloom that swallowed sound and hope alike. He heard it then, the chilling mechanical rasp of Darth Vader's breath, closer, more real than any nightmare. A towering silhouette emerged from the darkness, a crimson blade igniting, casting an ominous glow on the damp earth. This was no fleeting illusion, no quick test. This was a full, brutal confrontation. Vader advanced, his lightsaber a deadly blur. Luke ignited his own, its green hum a desperate counterpoint to the Sith Lord's menacing presence. Unlike the brief, symbolic clash he'd once experienced, this duel was protracted, a relentless barrage of heavy blows that rattled Luke to his very core. Each parry sent vibrations up his arm, not just from the impact, but from the cold, insidious touch of the dark side seeping into his resolve. Vader's form shifted, subtly, terrifyingly. The vision began to twist, showing Luke's dearest friends. Leia, her face etched with pain. Han Solo struggling against unseen bonds. Chewbacca roaring in helpless fury. Their suffering was vivid, agonizingly real, amplified by the cave's dark power. "You are weak, boy." Vader's voice boomed, echoing with cruel finality. "Your compassion is a chain. Only through power can you protect those you love." The words struck Luke with the force of a physical blow. He saw their faces pleading, desperate for a savior strong enough to break their chains. A primal roar tore from his throat, a sound born not of Jedi discipline, but of burgeoning rage and desperate frustration. He pushed back, not with calm focus, but with raw, unbridled emotion. A dark current surged through him, amplifying his strength, sharpening his senses to a dangerous edge. He saw an opening, a flicker in Vader's relentless assault, and struck with a ferocity he hadn't known he possessed. The black helmet rolled across the floor, revealing not a stranger, but his own face, twisted by a fierce, unyielding ambition. The black helmet, severed by Luke's furious strike, clattered across the damp floor of the Dagobah cave. It rolled to a stop, its polished surface reflecting the faint, unnatural light. Luke's breath hitched, not in triumph, but in a sudden, cold dread. As the helmet settled, the face revealed beneath was not the scarred, mechanical visage of Darth Vader. It was his own. But this was not the innocent, hopeful face of Luke Skywalker. This was a visage twisted by a fierce, unyielding ambition, eyes burning with a dark, dangerous fire. A subtle, almost imperceptible smile played on the lips, a hint of something predatory. The reflection was a mirror, not of his past, but of a terrifying potential. In that moment, the initial horror that should have gripped him was strangely absent. Instead, a chilling understanding settled deep within his core. The dark side wasn't just an enemy, a corrupting force to be resisted. It was a tool, a weapon, a path to absolute power, waiting to be wielded by someone strong enough, someone willing to do anything to achieve victory. The vision had shown him his friends suffering, their pleas echoing in his mind. The Jedi Path, as Yoda taught it, seemed slow, arduous, almost impotent against such overwhelming evil. But this dark reflection of himself, it promised immediate, decisive action. It promised the strength to protect, to conquer, to impose order. He looked at the fallen helmet, then back at his own hand, still clutching the humming lightsaber. The Force, which had always felt like a gentle current, now surged through him like a raging torrent, powerful and exhilarating. The whispers of the dark side, once insidious temptations, now sounded like logical truths. Compassion was weakness. Hesitation was failure. Only through absolute power could he truly save those he loved, even if it meant sacrificing a part of himself. The realization was not a moment of horrified denial, but a chilling acceptance. He was capable of this. He could be this. And in that moment, he chose to be. Luke Skywalker emerged from the suffocating darkness of the cave, but the light of Dagobah seemed dim, almost irrelevant, to his newly awakened senses. His eyes, once wide with a farm boy's innocence, were now hardened, reflecting a chilling glint of something dangerous and resolute. He looked at Yoda, not with the reverence he had once held for the wise old master, but with a newfound impatience, a stark conviction that the ancient ways were simply inadequate. Yoda, sensing the profound shift in the Force around his student, felt a tremor of despair. He saw the shadow that had fallen over Luke, the insidious tendrils of the dark side that had taken root. Clouded. "Your mind has become, Luke," Yoda rasped, his ears drooping, his voice heavy with sorrow. "The dark side, a quick and easy path it is, but leads only to suffering." Luke's lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible sneer. "Suffering for the Empire, perhaps," he retorted, his voice deeper, more resonant than before, imbued with an unshakable certainty. His hand instinctively went to the hilt of his lightsaber, a gesture of ownership over the power he now embraced. "Your path is too slow, Master," he stated, his words cutting through the humid air like a sharpened blade. "The galaxy burns while we meditate. While we speak of patience and balance, worlds fall, and good people are enslaved." He gestured vaguely towards the distant stars, his gaze fixed on a future he now envisioned, shaping with his own hand. "Power is what's needed. Real power. The kind that can crush an empire, not merely chip away at its edges. The Jedi way, it's a relic. It asks for restraint when what is truly required is absolute force. I have seen what is necessary, Master, and I am willing to do it." Yoda could only watch, his ancient eyes filled with a profound sadness, as Luke turned away, his grim determination etched on his face. The Force still flowed through the young Skywalker, yes, but it was no longer the serene river of light the Jedi sought to master. It was a raging torrent, carving its own destructive path, pulling Luke further and further into the shadow. Luke Skywalker emerged from the suffocating darkness of the Dagobah cave, but the humid air and the vibrant green of the swamp seemed to hold little sway over him now. The boy who had entered, burdened by doubt and seeking guidance, was gone. In his place stood a figure whose very presence had subtly, chillingly shifted. His eyes, once a clear, hopeful blue, now held a deeper, more intense hue, a subtle glint of something dangerous and unyielding within their depths. The youthful innocence that had defined him was replaced by a hardened resolve, a grim determination etched into the lines around his mouth. His voice, too, had changed. No longer the earnest, slightly uncertain tone of a farm boy. It now resonated with a deeper, more commanding timbre. When he spoke to Yoda, his words were devoid of the deference and questioning that had marked their previous interactions. Instead, they carried an edge of impatience, a conviction that bordered on arrogance. He moved with a newfound certainty, his gestures more decisive, less hesitant. Even the way he held his lightsaber, still green, felt different. It was no longer a tool of defense, but an extension of his will, ready to strike. Yoda, observing him, felt a profound disturbance in the Force, a discordant hum where there had once been a nascent melody of light. The ancient master saw the shadow clinging to Luke, not just a fleeting cloud, but a deepening stain. Luke's posture was more rigid, his shoulders set with a grim purpose that spoke of burdens he was now willing to bear through any means necessary. The light side, with its emphasis on patience and inner peace, seemed to have been shed like an unwanted skin. What remained was a raw, nascent power, barely contained, radiating from him like heat from a forge. He was still Luke Skywalker, but a version twisted, refined, and dangerously potent, ready to carve his own path through the galaxy, regardless of the cost. The confrontation in Cloud City was no longer the desperate struggle of a young Padawan against a master of the dark side. This was a maelstrom of raw power, a clash of wills that sent sparks flying and echoed through the metallic corridors. Luke Skywalker, no longer the hesitant, defensive fighter, met Darth Vader's every blow with a savage intensity that surprised even the Sith Lord. His green lightsaber, once a beacon of nascent hope, now moved with a speed and ferocity that spoke of a dangerous new mastery, a chilling precision born of dark conviction. He didn't merely defend, he attacked. Each parry was immediately followed by a relentless counterstrike, pushing Vader back, forcing the imposing figure to yield ground. The air crackled with the raw Force energy Luke now channeled, a stark contrast to the disciplined, measured movements of a Jedi Knight. His face, illuminated by the clashing blades, was a mask of grim determination, his eyes blazing with an almost feral light. He was no longer trying to survive. He was trying to dominate. "You are strong, boy." Vader's synthesized voice rasped, a hint of something akin to awe, or perhaps a grim satisfaction, in his tone as he parried a particularly vicious overhead strike that would have cleaved a lesser opponent. "Your anger makes you powerful." "It makes me effective," Luke snarled back, his voice low and dangerous, devoid of the youthful idealism that had once defined him. There was no fear in his eyes, only a burning focus, a hunger for victory. He saw his father in Vader, not just a shadow of what he might become, but a reflection of the immense power he now craved, a legacy he was ready to claim. He pressed his assault, each strike imbued with the cold, unyielding resolve forged in the Dagobah cave. The duel was no longer just about survival. It was about proving his newfound strength, about demonstrating the terrifying efficacy of the path he had chosen. The chilling words hung in the air of the carbon-freezing chamber, echoing off the metallic walls. "No, I am your father." Darth Vader stood before Luke Skywalker, his crimson blade still humming, the truth a hammer blow meant to shatter the young man's spirit. But instead of the expected scream of denial, the horrified recoil, a chilling calm settled over Luke. His eyes, which had moments before blazed with rage, now narrowed, a calculating glint replacing the raw emotion. He looked down at the mechanical hand that had just struck his lightsaber, then slowly, deliberately, at his own severed limb. the raw stump still smoking. A twisted smile, devoid of warmth or genuine mirth, touched Luke's lips. It was a smile of dark understanding, of a puzzle piece clicking into place. "Good," he said, his voice low and dangerous, a stark contrast to the desperate cries Vader had anticipated. "Then the power is mine by right." There was no horror, no despair, only a cold, hard acceptance and a burgeoning sense of entitlement. The revelation wasn't a curse. It was a legacy, a claim to an immense, terrifying power that now felt inherently his. He looked up at Vader, not as an enemy, but as a potential partner, a shared destiny. "Join me, Father," Luke continued, his voice gaining a seductive edge, almost a whisper of shared ambition. "Together, we can end this charade, this endless war, this futile rebellion. We can rule the galaxy, not as servants to some unseen master, but as true masters ourselves." Vader paused, his heavy breathing the only sound in the chamber. A flicker of something akin to surprise, perhaps even a grim satisfaction, registered in his red-rimmed optical sensors. This was not the boy he had known, the son he had expected to break. This was a son who truly understood the allure of power, who embraced the darkness within his own bloodline. "The Emperor will not tolerate rivals," Vader warned, a test more than a statement. "Then the Emperor will fall," Luke stated, his conviction absolute, his eyes burning with a newly forged ambition. "The galaxy needs order. We will bring it, by any means necessary." Luke Skywalker stood before Emperor Palpatine in the cavernous throne room of the second Death Star, a stark figure against the oppressive darkness. He did not kneel. His posture was defiant, his shoulders squared, and his presence radiated a nascent power that even the ancient Sith Lord could not ignore. The air crackled with an unspoken tension, a silent acknowledgement of the formidable Force user standing before him. Palpatine's eyes, yellowed and malevolent, gleamed with a chilling delight as he scrutinized the young man. A slow, predatory smile spread across his face. "Ah, young Skywalker," the Emperor rasped, his voice a dry, rattling sound that filled the vast chamber. "You have chosen wisely. Your father has spoken highly of your potential." There was a knowing quality in his tone, an understanding that Luke had embraced the very darkness Palpatine himself embodied. "My potential will be fully realized, Master," Luke replied, his voice devoid of the youthful emotion and hesitation that had once characterized him. It was a statement of cold, hard fact, a declaration of intent. The rebellion will be crushed. The galaxy will know true order. His words carried the weight of absolute conviction, a chilling echo of the Emperor's own tyrannical desires. He was not merely a new recruit. He was a willing instrument, honed by his own choices. Palpatine cackled, the sound echoing unnervingly. "Indeed, such clarity of purpose is rare, even among my most loyal servants." He extended a gnarled hand, not in an offer of comfort, but a gesture of proprietorship. "Your training begins now, my new apprentice. Together, we shall forge an empire that will last 1,000 years." The words sealed Luke's fate, marking the formal commencement of his descent into the Sith arts. The galaxy, unaware of this dark pact, was about to face a terror far greater than it could ever have imagined. News of Luke Skywalker's defection ripped through the Rebel Alliance like a poisoned blade, sharper and more insidious than any Imperial weapon. The whispers began in hushed tones on distant outposts, then spread like wildfire through the starships and hidden bases, each word a fresh stab to the heart of the rebellion. Leia felt it first, a sudden, agonizing void where her brother's light once shone within the Force. It was as if a vibrant star had winked out, replaced by a cold, distant darkness that sent a shiver through her very core. She had always felt his presence, a comforting anchor, a beacon of hope. Now, that beacon had turned into a chilling shadow, a betrayal that resonated on a level deeper than mere politics or strategy. Her brother, her twin, the last hope she had clung to, had chosen the very evil they fought against. The weight of it was crushing, a personal anguish that mirrored the despair threatening to engulf the entire alliance. Han Solo, usually quick with a sarcastic remark or a confident boast, was uncharacteristically silent when the reports were confirmed. He stood in the Millennium Falcon's cockpit, staring blankly out at the stars, his face a mask of disbelief and fury. He smashed his fist into a bulkhead, the dull thud echoing the hollow feeling in his chest. "He wouldn't," Han muttered, his voice raw, hoarse with denial. "Not Luke, not the kid who faced down Vader with nothing but a lightsaber and guts." The thought of Luke, the idealistic farm boy he had come to respect and care for, willingly embracing the Empire, was an unthinkable horror. It wasn't just a loss of a valuable pilot or a powerful Force user. It was a devastating blow to the very spirit of their cause. If Luke, their symbol of purity and hope, could fall, what chance did any of them truly have? The morale across the Alliance plummeted, replaced by a pervasive sense of dread and betrayal.